Hello, friends. Good morning. Good morning. How are you today? Hope you are well and that it is a beautiful day for you wherever you may find yourself. That you may find yourself in the beauty of the day. Hey, Jamie. Good morning to you. Donna, good morning. Glad you're here. Hey, Cecile. Good morning to you. How is everyone today? Hope you're doing all right. Hey, Jane. Hi, John. Hope you're doing all right this morning. New Hampshire is treating you beautifully. I am. I got your note that you're going to be down and next week, and I am going to be away. Next week, I will be headed out to our national conference out in beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I'll be gathering with many of the other churches within the National Association, kind of sharing a little congregational companionship. And so I'm sorry I'm going to miss you, but we actually have a great preacher laid on though. If you're not going to be disappointed. Hey John, good morning to you. Hope you're doing great. Karen, good morning. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so appreciative for your uh, for for just your continued presence on the journey. Hey, Vicky, I'm in Boston with a dying phone. Oh no, nobody wants to be in Boston, and nobody especially wants to be in Boston with a dying phone. Anyway, I hope you're doing okay. Yes, good, good. All right, good morning, everybody. It is the 15th day. It is the Ides of June. The 15th day of June on this Thursday, and it is 11:11. And I'm glad you're here. I am glad you are a companion on the journey. This morning, I want us to kind of I just want to, the last couple of days, I feel like we've been kind of, in kind of the big theological woo in terms of what we've been talking about. And I want to just kind of get us back to basics a little bit because we've had, last night we had what is our annual deacons dinner, which is this opportunity. We sent an invitation to anyone who's ever served as a deacon of the church, and we have a gathering and a dinner. We have a few people that we honor. We honor the outgoing deacons. We lift up people who've been a light, and it was just a lovely time because there's one thing to have the membership of the church, but to have the folks that have been deacons are often the folks that have made an investment in the church, and that they've made an investment together over time. Congregational churches like ours are a little different in some ways. The way, if you go to a big program church, you're going to discover along the way that somebody's going to say, okay, you're single or you're married or you have kids or you don't have kids or you're a man or a woman. They're going to kind of type you out, and then you're going to find yourself in a small group, which it kind of with a bunch of other people that look like you. For us in the in the not only in the small church but in the congregational way, we really we that that the we our fellowship doesn't necessarily break up along these kind of affinity lines, but rather it breaks up along the lines of usefulness and the lines of task and the lines of being companions on the journey of keeping the church together and alive and well and caring for the church. That the work of the church actually is the place in which fellowship takes place. Now, there are fellowship events. Obviously, we had one last night. but it's real. But that happened. But that fellowship was actually generated out of people that were working shoulder to shoulder together to, call somebody who maybe they haven't seen in a few months, or to serve communion, and or to welcome in new members, or all the different tasks that deacons take up. So to gather with the deacons of the church, we had 30, 35 folks or so last night. I'm not quite sure, that them and spouses and guests, and is really, this wondrous thing, because it is truly this kind of getting the band back together kind of moment, because there's people that used to be on, and kind of we get to reconnect and all this kind of stuff. So there's this beautiful sense of companionship in the journey. And that's really what I want us to hold up today, is this notion of what it is. I think that this notion of companionship, and when we think about companionship now in the 21st century, we think about getting a partner, right? Partnering up, getting somebody to connect your life to, because that's your companion, my companion, my partner. We use language like that, but that's not it. That's not it. And that's not the meaning of the word companion. That in fact, the meaning of the word companion is simply this. It means with, pan, and then yun, another person. So pan, do you know what pan is in your French? All your French speakers out there, Jane, I'm looking at you. Pan is bread. One with whom we break bread are our companions. This is, it is the, and again, this is not only the fundamental thing that we do in the Christian walk, but the fundamental thing we do as the journey of faith, but it is far more the fundamental thing we do as human beings. I would contend to you that the world right now is at war with companionship. And I'm not saying about getting a partner to snuggle up to at night. I'm talking about the journey of who we would break bread with. That there are a number, how many different messages have we received over the past few years that tell us, don't break bread with these people because they might be infected. Don't break bread with those people because they might think wrong. Don't break bread with those people because they might be oppressors. Don't break bread with those people because they might be victims. It goes on and on and on with the messages we've received, but they all are targeted at one common root, which is the notion that we might have people that we break bread with. And I am convinced more and more and more that the power of what it means that when Jesus, before he goes to the cross, has dinner with his friends, even the friends that will betray him, even with Judas, he even dips his bread with Judas, that he shares the journey with even those he disagree with and are going to work directly against him, and yet he holds even him in companionship. And then immediately upon the resurrection, he has breakfast with his friends with a little boiled fish and a little journey and a little strength for the journey. This is not by accident. This is not, and that the institution of the meal is the thing that becomes the common cup of the instituted meal of communion itself and of the Holy Supper. It's not a one-off. It's not it's a nice thing we can do, but what's really important is this other thing. It becomes the centrality of the Christian tradition. Within the Catholic tradition, within the Orthodox tradition, and even within the Protestant tradition, we hold up that the two things of sacraments. Everything else, ordinances, whatever you want to call them, there's lots of different names for them, but two sacraments: communion and baptism. Both of which, by the way, what do? They create companions for the road. That the baptism is the welcome into the pilgrim's path. The communion meal is the breaking of bread together with one another. Friends, I want to encourage you as we go into the weekend, as we'll pick it up next week. And next week, I'll be traveling, but I'm going to continue to do 11:11 from Milwaukee because I'm so convicted and believe in the companionship that we have here. That what happens when you hear my voice and when if you're in the live stream, I get to say your name. But even if you're not listening to me to us live and you're not a part of that, you are still a companion on the journey. That when I close this out, I will pray for you. That whoever hears this message, hears this voice, also hears the call to companionship, to have somebody that you will go break bread with. Not that you need to snuggle up and, at night with, not that you need to be all intimate with, but that you will be around the table with, and that you will bring the table into your life. That I am quite convinced there is nothing, that the greatest weapon of everything that afflicts us right now, and this is going to sound ridiculous to you when I say it, and you will mock me for saying it, because many do, but I will stand on it and I will continue to stand on it. I truly believe that the great remedy to the brokenness of our age can be solved with dinner parties. You're like, oh, dinner parties, that's so like, no. We want to disagree with people. We want to have this opportunity where we might encounter things that we don't agree with, and yet find a way in which to hold them. Now, sometimes they might not be the dinner party might not be able to hold it. Maybe I'll be able to hold the difference. We might discover that we are truly other and with another person, or truly at odds. But even that puts us in right relationship. Even that puts us in an honest relationship rather than just like, oh, hi, how you doing? Like, at least we get to have a real conversation with someone, and a real sharing of what we believe and what the other person believes, and what we that and that. But also we get to rally, we get to discover, we get to encounter, we get to hold dear the people whom we love, and we get to strengthen the companionship of the world. So what we did last night in gathering, and I said this to the deacons, and I wanted to say it to you all today, that what we did in breaking bread together is, I think, probably the most revolutionary thing and most powerful thing that we will do of the age. And it requires of us our presence and our time and our attention. Now, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, I wish I could break bread with each one of you. I truly do. Like, I really, really. And I am committed, by the way, that at some point in the not distant future, we are going to have an 11/11 weekend and gathering. And I've got a lot going on this year, and we've got a lot of things, irons in the fire. But it is not lost to me, because we do need to gather around a table. We need to break bread together. But I need you to break bread today. I need you to be a companion. I need you to be an adventurer on the journey. I think very much I just spoke to one of our oldest members of the church, and he's getting frail and getting old, but he came to this church when he was 11, having started high school. Yes, that's right. He started Durfee High School at 11 years old, because he could start in the mill or he could start in the high school. And it was between the pastor of this church and between the teacher in his school and between the lunch lady whom he worked for, because he'd lost most of the people his family, that he was able to find his way not only through high school and through college and through doctoral programs, but he would go on to teach for the rest of his life. Now, some of you know who I'm talking about, but whether you do or you don't, that reality of companionship, that there were people who chose to break bread with him rather than send him to a mill. There were people that chose to journey with him, even at 11 years old. There were people who chose there was a lunch lady that took care of him and whom he would it was his task to deliver meals throughout the high school to the teachers. Friends, the power of companionship is the power of the incarnational Christ. It is the power of the Holy Spirit that comes to bind us together or to set us apart so that we may be bound together better. Sometimes we do need to be set apart. We understand that. Sometimes you need to go to your respective corners. Sometimes things need to shake out. Sometimes truth needs to be revealed. It's not always, I'm not suggesting this is all big snuggle fest and it's always going to be unicorns and rainbows. But what I'm suggesting is the ability to break bread with one another. The ability to simply go all the way back to Ecclesiastes. I mean, here's the wisdom of Solomon. So if you don't know, the Ecclesiastes is claimed to have been written by Solomon, and it is his reflections as an old king, the wisest man in the world. It's kind of the, like, what's it all about, Alfie, kind of question. In fact, the book of Ecclesiastes was for a while one of my favorite books because it begins in almost this nihilistic state where it says, I've seen it all, I've done it all, and when you're King Solomon, that means something. That's he's had experiences, and he comes to, and yet what? It's vanity of vanities. All is vanity. This is the refrain that comes in the first few chapters of the book. That there's this, that it's all kind of doesn't matter. It's all kind of dross. Yet, and then as it begins to work along, though, you almost take the journey with him where he begins to mine the things, where he takes all of this dross and he begins to, and all of this slag and all of this dirt, and he begins to run it through the screed of experience and of wisdom, and he runs it through this screed of real lived joy and wonder. And he begins to, there are these things that begin to arise. There are these nuggets of gold and these jewels and gems of wonder that begin to shine as he begins to work through this. And that his answer towards the end becomes so simple and so beautiful that and what's so funny is it's the same answer that it sounds a lot like Albert Camus. If you ever read Camus, if you ever had to do that as a philosophy person, they're very similar in text. Camus kind of tries to make the case for suicide. He's kind of says like, why bother? And he makes it on this case. And yet at the end, they both seem to come to the same place, that even though it's hard, even though it's broken, even though it's set apart, even though there's people we won't get along with and ways we won't be able to figure it out. There's people we'll disagree with. There's people we won't like. There's injustices and evils that will be done to us. There are ways in which and some of them will be pretty violent, and they'll really try to break our soul and our spirit. Yet even in the midst of all of it, it's hard to kind of find what really matters. But at the end of it, it's all worth it. It's all a beautiful, beautiful journey which is unveiled in its living, in the presence of every moment, in the presence of every joy, in the wonder of every being, not in the great by and by of the future, and not even in the nostalgia of the past, but in the present of a meal broken with friends, of a joy shared with each other. And Ecclesiastes, he says this is towards the beginning of the book, but he says this is one of those gems that starts to run to surface as he's working through the dirt and the emptiness of the life in which he's lived. This is this: two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their work. For if they fall, one will lift up his friend. But woe to him who is alone, for when he falls, he has not anyone to lift him up. Again, if two lie down together, they'll keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though a person might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Friends, the tonic of our age, I think, really is the ones with whom we break bread, is the companionship of our days. It's my hope that you will pick up a phone even if you can't go break bread with somebody. If you'll have a meal with, or if you can, you'll go have a meal with somebody this weekend, with somebody that you love and you care about. If you can, you'll plug into a faith community and make that the household of God, so that you have people to journey with this life through. That other than the people that you've covenanted to in partnership and marriage, or people that you've raised, or somebody outside the nuclear family of things, but that you will find companions for the journey. Because the great Solomon, the great Camus, the great wisdom of the ages, and the great Jesus, who came into this world not to be master and not to call us slave, but to call us friend, as brothers and sisters at the high table of God. Friends, I hope you'll have some companionship this weekend, that you'll find someone and break a little bread with them. You'll call somebody that you've been estranged with. Dig into, spend time with people that you might not know well, but you're willing to deepen the journey. Or you'll just go out and make a new friend, whatever way, however it finds itself. But let go of these voices that want us to be separate from one another, that want us to divide into our camps and divide into our beings. But let us be a part of the resurrected Christ's meal, and gather around the fire, and gather around the table, and be a companion, the one with whom we break bread. And in that, see the face of Jesus himself. All right, friends, that's my hope for you. I hope you'll have a great and beautiful weekend. We have a great worship service coming up this Sunday. Just a reminder, by the way, we are going to our Sunday services for July and August will start at 9 o'clock rather than 10 o'clock. So we find that most of us like the chance to kind of get the rest of the day and worship early, and you can throw on your bathing suit under your clothes and come to church, and then head straight to the beach. Like it's a win-win. So I hope you'll take this as an opportunity, maybe to dig in and renew your companionship with the church as a chance as we worship this summer. But wherever you find yourself and whatever you do this weekend, may the peace and grace of Jesus be with you. And we'll pick it up next week with another 11:11.